thought, this is really interesting. And the takeaway that I took from that, and the thing that I happen to feel is most important as environmentalists that we really learn, because I do believe that we face a communication challenge much more so than we face a solution challenge, is how do we frame the choice in terms of people's self-interest? This clearly, green choice was in a lot of people's self-interest who don't self-identify as environmentalists as we were doing this TV show. Now you could say, well, that's all well and good, but that solution, Josh, that you're talking about, that eco-friendly car, it doesn't exist. You can't buy it, and if you could, it'd probably be too expensive. And of course, I would have to concede that that's true. My point is that you can, what I was trying to do was engage people, at least in an environmental dialogue, that don't necessarily, have that kind of conversation. But I'll give you just another example of this point, and this is just, I think, a very, very, very important point, is to frame solutions in terms of people's self-interest, not the environment's self-interest, and it's the easiest way to win their support. So I'll give you an example from the TV show. It's an episode coming up in a few weeks. We were told by Sundance Channel that we were to green a professional athlete, and we had a hard time booking someone. So the season's going on, we're getting close to the end of filming, and we end up booking the national Taekwondo champion, which was cool, but, it wasn't like, an NFL football player or something, but it was cool. But I thought, well, what the heck are we going to do? Like, all this guy does is go into a dojo and kick all day long. Like, he has no impact. What's the angle? And we started realizing, well, professional athletes or high-performance athletes actually literally consume 3 to 4 times more food to fuel up to get their calories than the average person. So how do we deal with his consumption? Let's try and take that on, because this guy's just throwing down pizzas and burgers and protein shakes and anything he wants. He works out 3 times a day. He can't even keep any of the weight on because he's training so hard. So I brought him to this sports medical professor and sports nutrition professor at Stanford University who's working now with more and more professional athletes. So I brought in this doctor, and the doctors basically were having this conversation talking about organics and the importance of eating organic and locally grown food, everything that environmentalists know and that we talk about all the time. And James, the Taekwondo guy, his eyes are kind of just glazing over. And I'm saying, well, James, what do you think about all this? And he's saying, honestly, he's like, I don't understand what the two of you are talking about, and I really don't care. So the doctor says to him, well, James, let me try and break this down as simply as I can for you. Organic food, and hopefully local organic food, because local's the freshest, but organic food can't rely on pesticides and insecticides to grow. It has to learn to fend for itself. Therefore, it's stronger food. It has higher antioxidant content. As an athlete, you're working out so much, you are breaking down your muscles, you're depleting your body. You need a lot of antioxidants to replenish, to recuperate, so you can work out harder. So James, the simplest way I can say is that if you eat organic food, which is stronger food, you will be a stronger champion and stand a better chance to win gold at the 2012 Olympics. Well, that was clearly in James' self-interest. Even though he didn't really care about the environment, he sure cared about winning Olympic gold a couple of years from now. And it was really about taking this thing that we all talk about in terms of the importance of going organic and framing it in terms of why James should care about it himself. And I just feel that this idea of framing in terms of people's self-interest, there's usually a way to do it, and it's incredibly compelling. The third thing I would say, I sort of put it under the heading of look normal. And by that, last summer, after season 1 of my TV show aired, I kind of was like, all right, well, I'm just going to take a break. I had moved down to Asheville, North Carolina. If anyone's been through there, I mean, it's beautiful. It's also, kind of like a sort of a hippie-ish little town. And I just thought, I'm going to blend in. I'm going to grow a mohawk. And so, all summer long, I was just growing out this mohawk. And my folks have retired down to Asheville, so I'd see my dad periodically, and he would just kind of roll his eyes and just be like, my son, I'm so proud. And as the summer went on, I was getting ready to go back to Notre Dame University to give a talk to the business school's board of advisors. I had given a talk in January to the students at the business school that was very well received, so the dean had invited me back to speak to the board of advisors. And my dad called me about 2 days before I was supposed to go, and he invited me to lunch, which usually means I'm about to get a lecture. So we sat down, and I kind of knew what was coming when he was like, son, I know how important it is for you, for people to listen to your message. And I was like, Dad, it's cool, I'm going to cut my hair. It's okay. But as like many fathers, he had worked himself up and had a whole speech that he, was going to lay on me no matter what. So, for about 10 minutes, he just proceeded to tell me why I had to like cut my hair, and and it was obvious to me and unfortunate, but I cut my hair, and I put on a jacket and tie, and I went up to Notre Dame, and I gave my talk, and it went well, and it was also a really cool audience, and afterward, Dan Hess, the CEO of Sprint, was in the audience, and he came up and he's talking about his cell phone that he's excited about, and we had lunch with him and a number of other people, and it was just like so obvious to me what would have happened had I showed up in that room with my mohawk. And the thing is, like, and it kind of goes back to my first point, that as environmentalists, we are coming into rooms, we are starting at a disadvantage because people think of us and with all of these stereotypes that aren't always helpful. And the more that we can do to kind of look normal, right, whether that's actually how we look or how our marketing materials appear or what our website looks like or what the packaging on our products looks like, the more that it looks the way that people expect things to look, and it doesn't look like eco or hippie or crunchy or granola, but the more that it looks normal, the more that we'll have an impact, and the more effective we'll be. And I just think, really thinking through who are we communicating to, what's important to them, and how do we either frame our materials or our talk or our advertisements, whatever it might be, so that it resonates with who they are. Because what's really important, nobody cares about my environmental values, right? And I don't necessarily think they should. What they care about is like, why should they care? And that's what we have to focus on. The fourth thing that I want to tell you is, and this I would kind of label on the importance again of like no guilt trips, no gloom and doom, no talking about polar bears. I was asked by Walmart about 2 years ago to host a satellite media tour. It was around Earth Day, and I was going to talk about what we were calling green on a shoestring. All of these products that were available at Walmart that were affordable, made from recycled content, organic, some cool stuff. And so I was in a room where I was staring into a camera, and then was being kind of broadcast to morning shows around the country, and we were also doing some radio shows as well. And I was getting hooked into this radio show, this morning show in Knoxville, Tennessee. I had my earpiece in, and through the earpiece, I could hear these two hosts of these two morning DJs who obviously didn't know I was on the line, and their conversation basically went something like, "Great, just what I need this morning, another Yankee environmentalist to tell me, why I'm terrible and why we need to, save the planet and make me feel awful." And they went on and on and on, and then it was like, "Okay, and we're back, and welcome Josh, what do you have for us?" And and sort of like in that split second before I was going on, I was like, "Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" So I thought, I didn't know how much time I had either, and like when they were going to cut me off. But I thought, so the first thing I said was like, "All right, well, you guys are down in Knoxville, huh?" I'm like, "Wow, you guys, how's the football team looking?" Right? Because it's SEC country. And, well, not so good. I was like, "Yeah, rough loss to LSU last year. You guys had a shot at winning the SEC." "Yeah, it was terrible." And we got off, we got talking about college football, which, of course, is a great thing to talk about, of course, here in Columbus and certainly throughout the South. And we talked about that for a couple of minutes. We talked about the upcoming season. And then they finally said, "All right, so what do you have for us, Josh?" I was like, "Well, guys, you like to save money, right?" Like, "Yeah, well, times are tough. Yeah, we always want to save money." So then I talked about, all these like green on a shoestring products. I'm like, "Well, I'm just really here to tell you how, these really cool products that are going to save you money are also better for the planet, and they're really just, easy to do. They fit your life." And I went through my whole thing, and they were like, "Wow, okay, you're not as bad as I thought you were going to be," which I took as a big compliment. And, that stuff's cool. So, I didn't have to, if I had started laying in or started coming with like, we have to save the planet, it would have been a very different conversation. It would not have been effective. And it's actually, this happens to me pretty regularly. So I was on Fox and Friends, as John mentioned, not long ago. And right before the segment was about to start, and this was in New York City, the host leans over in his chair and he says to me, "Just so you know, I don't believe in global warming." And he like sits back in his chair, and I'm looking at him thinking like, "Yeah, thanks, man. Like, I'm not, nervous enough, like, great." And the camera, they're like, "Okay, you're going live in 30 seconds. And it's like, and so I'm thinking like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And it just kind of popped into my head. I was like, "Well, do you believe in the Yankees?"